Hello, my name is Miles Graham. I was Grand Master from May of 2009 to May of 2011. I began my journey in Freemasonry when I joined Lodge St. Andrew number 16 in 1985. At that time, I had completed my high school studies in Rishabukto, the 2-year electronic technology program at the New Brunswick Institute of Technology in Moncton, and had begun my career with the New Brunswick Telephone Company in Fredericton in 1969, an outside plant engineering group. Married to Paula Flanagan in 1972, followed by a relocation to St. John in 1973. We lived in Hampton for 9 years, and I commuted to St. John for work in Brunswick Square. We were blessed with the arrival of a son, Greg, in 1975, and a daughter, Wendy, in 1979. In 1981, relocated to Moncton, and I joined the outside plant planning group, design and budgeting for the southeastern part of the province. Further transitions took place later with movement into the engineering, design, and construction activities until 1995 in technical and managerial roles. In 1985, after settling into work and a new home, joined Lodge St. Andrew number 16, located in Rexton, New Brunswick, having grown up in Cushmacwac and attended high school in Rishabukto. It seemed to be a good choice. My brother and my father, who passed away in 1982, were members of Lodge St. Andrew, as well as other relatives and members in the Moncton area. I still recall receiving my 3rd degree in December 1985, with the lodge room full and the Celtic degree team from the Moncton area presiding in the 3rd degree, with my brother Carr acting as the presiding master. An impressive introduction to the fraternity. Just to get into perspective, the lodge membership in 1985 when I joined consisted of 86 members. 15 years later, in 2000, it stood at 47 members, and in 2021, when the lodge went into darkness and surrendered its charter, we had 27 members. Age and failing health was becoming a factor, but even with a few members, attendance continued at a level of 50% attendance. From 1986 to 1994, I had the privilege of serving in the line offices in the lodge up to that of Worshipful Master in 1994. The same year, my brother Carr became Grand Master. During the time serving in the various offices up to the Worshipful Master and afterwards, where District 2 and 7, though all those separate districts, worked very closely together, and with 14 lodges, visitation and collaboration was extensive. Made for a busy time, but beneficial for all. From 1995 to 2000, we lived in Fredericton, and I continued in the management within the engineering group responsible for the area from Fredericton through to Edmundston. My first office in Grand Lodge was that of the Assistant Grand Director of Ceremonies for Right Worshipful Brother Evan Thomas. In 1998, and during an official visit to Colebrook Lodge in Grand Falls, I recall a traveling gavel that arrived at the lodge for circulation throughout the jurisdiction on its circuit to the East Coast. Paula and I returned to Moncton in 2000 after my retirement from the telephone company and began work with a local construction contracting company, Carter Brothers Limited, performing work for the telcos and power corporations in the Atlantic region. During the significant transition into fiber and its associated growth. In 2002, I joined the Masonic Charities and Housing Company Limited as a director and have remained a member of the board. In 2012, I was elected as president of Charities and Housing, which continued for a duration of 6 years, followed by that of past president. Always enjoyed visiting the camp on Mason's Day and observing the many children over the years enjoying their camping experiences and forgetting their health issues. And this July will be the 34th year that the camp has been held. After serving as master of my lodge, I had the opportunity of serving in a number of Grand Lodge offices and committees, a whole new experience with challenges and perspectives of a broader nature. I would be remiss if I did not mention Don Grucci, first president, James McKenna, also a past president who has been very active, Bud Gilry, and Morton Mitchell. They were very active with the Masonic Charities in housing, and they certainly, and in the case of Morton Mitchell, he seemed to take the residents of the home as part of his family. And in 2004, 2005, I served as District Deputy Grand Master for District Number 2. And my brother Carr passed away in 2005, just prior to the Grand Lodge session in May of 2005. And I progressed on from that to the position of Senior Grand Warden, Deputy Grand Master, and culminating with the Grand Master in 2009-2011. During this time, I served on the ritual, jurisprudence, and also a member of the Board of General Purposes. After serving as Worshipful Master of my lodge, I became more involved in the annual activity of all lodges, which was the installation ceremony of new officers for the coming year. This began with my mother lodge in minor roles initially, which gradually increased over the years and progressed to other lodges on their request within both Districts 2 and 7. Both closed installations with only Masons presence, as well as semi-public ones where invited guests were present. Assistance of Rodney Gervin as the organist was a key part of the ceremony, as well as Don Steves and Dale Allen acting at various times as the installing chaplain. Gil Meredith as the soloist, and Stephen Allen with the working tools. A number of dual installations took place with Sussex Lodge and Zetland over a number of years. Key players that were my tutors on this activity was my brother Carr and Doug Wood. I also, in 1994, joined the Concordant Body, being the Scottish Rite, and headquarters in Hamilton, Ontario. I joined the Moncton Lodge of Perfection, and in 1998, I was the Thrice Fusion Grand Master. And in 2007-2008, after serving in a number of offices, I was the Most Wise Sovereign for the Britain chapter, Rose Craw. And in 2016-2017, I became the Commander-in-Chief with the New Brunswick Sovereign Consistory. And things continued on with me being invited to become an honorary member of Supreme Council in 2006 at the Supreme Council session in Halifax. And in 2013, the Supreme Council session was held at the Blue Mountain Resort, about an hour north of Toronto. The first time that the Supreme Council session had been held in a non-downtown area, and it was in a resort, so that was quite a change. And at that session, I became coronated as a Sovereign Grand Inspector General active member, which I guess gave me voting rights as a member of Supreme Council. And I became the deputy for New Brunswick in the Supreme Council session in September 2018 in London, Ontario, for the Sovereign Grand Commander, illustrious Brother Rob Whitmore. And I served a 4-year term as deputy, and with the officer changeover in September of 2022 in Saskatoon, I stepped back and became past deputy, past active. So I can still attend all sessions, provide input, but do not have voting rights. Another organization that I joined on a request. It was a request only. It wasn't one that an individual could apply to. Was the Royal Order of Scotland. So I received an invitation after coming before the lodge, I guess is the way it goes, and in 1999 and in the session in 2000, I received the degrees and became a member. And later on in the organization, I was installed as a Deputy Provincial Grand Master in 2014 for a 5-year term, which was an appointed office at that time by the Provincial Grand Master. And in 2019, I was elected to be the Provincial Grand Master for the term from October 2019 until October 2024. So October of next year will be the completion of my term of office. And individuals that have influenced me in my early years in the fraternity were my brother Carr as well as Doug Wood, a past district deputy who was active in the lodge and the district and frequently traveled with me on my official visits throughout the jurisdiction during my term as Grand Master. James Cale, district deputy who preceded me in my lodge, and George Bonus, my counterpart in district number 7. Due to the activity in Grand Lodge and the various associated committees involved, frequent interactions with members occurring throughout the jurisdiction. The scope of involvement extended to Grand Lodge when I became the junior warden in my lodge and began attending the annual sessions of Grand Lodge. In 1998, I began my first office in Grand Lodge as the Assistant Grand Director of Ceremonies and also assisted Most Worshipful Gordon Rattray as the District Deputy Grand Master for District Number 2. And I was Senior Grand Warden for Most Worshipful Brother Wayne McKay in 2005-2007. But unfortunately, he passed away in January of 2007. And Right Worshipful William Boone, as Deputy Grand Master, completed his term in 2007 and succeeded as Grand Master in 2007 and 2009, and followed with my term as Grand Master. Participation in Grand Lodge and the various committees, including Masonic Charities and Housing Limited, continued on after completing my term as Grand Master. And members that had traveled with me during my term in office, there were 3 of the members that were officers while I was Grand Master continued on to be Grand Master. And also John Jeffries was an individual that had influence with me. He was an active member in District 2 and 7, past District Deputy Grand Master on the Board of General Purpose for many years, and quite an expert on the Constitution and its interpretation. Ed Burridge was the District Deputy Grand Master for me during my term in office, and he also in 2010 served as chairman of the Grand Lodge Strategic Planning Committee, and he prepared an excellent report which is still relevant, and especially all the brethren throughout the jurisdiction who supported their lodge and me as Grand Master each of my visits to their lodge. That has been a memory that remains with me, and those are the members that have made Grand Lodge as to what it is. It's the regular member within the lodge that somehow is always there when you need them. And thank you, brethren. And one thing I seem to recall is that there appeared to be a greater focus on physical meetings, workshops, training seminars, etc. during my time compared to what we are seeing in more recent times in regard to the ritual, the floor work, protocols, officer training, compared to what currently takes place. Current aids are beneficial, But due to the nature of our organization, the social aspects, the fellowship, the history, our principles are all important and should not be neglected. When I became Grand Master, my Deputy Grand Master was Peter Whitaker, a member of Cherry Mountain Lodge and Harvey Station. The Secretary was Randy Nelson. The other officers I recall were Garth Dingy, and he was served as a Senior Grand Warden. Stephen Allen had served both as Junior Grand Warden and Senior Grand Warden during my term, and Clyde Towns was Junior Grand Warden. And all of the Grand Masters from the time I was Worshipful Master through, were very frequently present, so there was a rapport with each of them. Different degrees in some cases, but there was quite a strong influence, I guess, once a person became aware of what the Grand Lodge was and what it consisted of. And we can't forget when you have the financial side, and Robert Kierstead was a Grand Treasurer for many years, and I seemed to be quite an individual that the person could have rapport with. And of course, I can't forget my Grand Director of Ceremonies, Joel Blakeney, and I don't think he missed a visit on any of my attendance on any of my official visits. And one of the issues that had been affecting Grand Lodge was on the financial side. The focus on financials seemed to be, we didn't want to maybe force the membership dues up too much on the membership. But the situation existed where Grand Lodge was drawing on investments to meet their financial requirements, which was placing Grand Lodge in a difficult position. And at the time, it would have been my predecessor had brought on Barry Ellsworth as the chairman of the financial committee, and the committee assessed the financial requirements and determined the appropriate dues structure going forward. With this supporting documentation, their recommendations were approved by Grand Lodge. This occurred in 2008, and with their due diligence, the financial status is currently in good condition. And it seemed interesting because prior to that, I think it was like 5 years prior to 2008, the Grand Lodge had approved an annual increase of $1 a year over 5 years to bring the dues up to what they thought was reasonable. In 2008, on the motion before Grand Lodge was to increase the dues from 15 to 25, and the 3 successive years a $5 annual increase. So then we could start being a little bit more concerned, aware of where we were and not having to erode our savings. And continuity while the governing body changes, where the government body changing every 2 years with the new officer lineup, new Grand Master, some projects that have been started but not complete may be overlooked or forgotten or neglected to the detriment of progress. In 2002, 2003, as an example, Wayne Hitchcock developed a 5-year plan for Grand Lodge, which I had updated in 2010 with excellent collaboration and feedback from many members throughout the jurisdiction, with the efforts of Right Worshipful Brother Ed Burridge, documented in the proceedings, but did not seem to generate much activity. Information still appears pertinent, perhaps time for a review. May be beneficial to add to the website because it's perhaps more accessible, and if it's in the proceedings and the years past, we tend to not check on them as frequently as it should. So I think it would be an important item to perhaps add to the website, that it becomes part of the documentation that would be available for the members, because I think the recommendations and whatnot would give you an indication and would certainly be an assist in things that the lodges can do at their level to improve the situation in whatever difficulties they may be experiencing. As a past Grand Master, I have served on the Board of General Purposes, the Warrants Committee, Bursary Committee, and Jurisprudence for a few years after being Grand Master, and President of the Masonic Charities and Housing Company Limited, past President and Director from District Number 2. And recently have been on the ad hoc committee, and I believe we have experienced some of that just recently with the electronic voting that has taken place, because that required changes in the Constitution and the regulations to allow that to happen. And in closing, I mentioned that, to my knowledge, that my brother Carl Ward Graham and myself, Miles Ray Graham, are the only brother combination that has served as Grand Master within the Grand Lodge of New Brunswick. I have enjoyed my time as a member of the fraternity from my beginning as an entered apprentice in 1985 to the present. Paula and I are now proud grandparents of 3 granddaughters and 1 grandson. We have experienced many challenges over the years, and the fraternity have had many successes. May we continue to see this fraternity of ours move forward into the future for each of us and for society as a whole. Thank you, brethren.